Welcome, everybody, to the 40 in Tennessee podcast. We've had a little bit of a break, but we're back here with Randy in Houston and myself. We have a guest coming on, and we're about to call her and bring her in here. We're going to talk about her experiences. She's had eyewitness encounters, and she has some of her own methodology to attract them in. And that's what we're going to talk to her about today. She's been a guest at our, a vendor at our convention. Wonderful lady. So whenever you're ready, Randy, we can bring her in.
Oh, there she is.
Hey guys.
Hi.
Hey. How are
Hello,
you?
how are y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
I'm gonna have to put my glasses on so I can see everybody. Okay.
Now, first thing, so I don't butcher it, but like, how do you pronounce your name? Is it Tre?
Tree, like a tree.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure.
Yes. Everybody calls me Miss Tree, but you guys can call me Tree.
Awesome. So I had given a little bit of an introduction before you came in, because I figured it would be easier if you explain what you do than me trying to.
Yeah, it's a little around the spectrum.
So Tree, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience, who you are and what you do?
All right. My name is Tre James. I go by Miss Tree. I am a practicing shaman. It's actually a Dukin from Indonesia was my training. And I play the sound bowls, the singing bowls. So I'm a sound alchemist, and I use sound in my Reiki healing appointments with others, helping them with through the awakening and kind of all the things that are going on in their life emotionally and stuff. And so that's just kind of what I've always done. And I was a massage therapist a long time ago and an educator, but now I just teach in the spiritual realm to others. So that's basically it. A lot of other things though. I sing and I'm very artistic and creative. So I have a full life of all those good, beautiful things.
Oh, that's amazing. It's amazing. What got you into doing the healing and doing what got you into doing all this?
What got me into it? Well, it actually, I've just always had that thing inside of me that if someone is hurting or someone is in pain or whatever, I just seem to, even if I'm not in their, within the seeing, I end up being with them. As a child, I noticed it with animals and others. And then, growing up, I was a cheerleader, dancer, just a normal high school kid. But I always been a little on the spectrum. I'm ADHD, so I'm always kind of going fast, and I just seem to attract others. And when they come, there's always something that they need, as far as, and it goes both ways. I mean, we all are going through healing. Everybody's a teacher and a student. However, what got me really into it is I wanted to be a massage therapist. But I actually started my energy and Reiki training prior to my massage therapy career. I didn't, at the time, it was like not something many people knew. It was like, I guess it was 2006 when I graduated from massage therapy school, and I'd already been through 2 of my Reiki trainings. I was under my Reiki Master Teacher for 9 years. So I've done as much time as someone would on a doctorate, in learning the energetics of our system, our auric field, our chakra system, everything in more or less these days quantum field, But back then it was just energetics and feeling. And so I was just naturally drawn there. I literally met my Reiki Master Teacher just by a stumble, as well as my guru in both things. And I just automatically, they're like, do you want to be my student? And I was like, yes. And so there we went. I went to MTSU, my first rodeo with massage therapy when they had a massage therapy program. And I met a professor there, Dr. Winborn, and he was very influential to me. I had taken a class on mind body connection, and it was open to anybody, in from going to school at MTSU. And so I entered, and the first night of class, I was late. There was a tornado. Like everything that could go wrong was going wrong for me to get there. But when I finally get there, I walk into this room full of people, and I'm like, and he was up there lecturing. He had some dowsing rods. And as I walked in, I was probably about, I don't know, maybe like 20 feet away from him, 19 feet away from him. His dowsing rods go, pow. The closer I got, they kept, and they went 7 times. And he got this big grin on his face, and he was like, "What a perfect divine time for you to walk in. I'm explaining the auric field, you know."
Hmm.
And so he picked mine up that big, and he said he'd never picked one up that large before, as far as his own study and things. So we had other people in the class do the same thing I did, walk in the door, and they were like 5 feet. So he automatically took me under my wing, under his wing, and he said, "I need you to come to my office." And I said, "Okay, yes, sir, yes, master." So the next week I got there early and went, and he had all of these Tibetan singing bowls, and he also had quartz crystal bowls. And when I saw him, I just automatically, I was like, "May I?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I just started playing. And that's how it started. And I got my first bowl um, probably within, a year or two. I went and found it. It was actually, I have one of the originals. It's called a crucible where they burn computer chips.
Okay.
And General Electric made these, and they were sitting in a warehouse, like I think in 1940s or something. That's what all of these were just piling up. And employee went in there and rammed one, and they started singing. So I got to buy one of those original General Electric crucibles, and so that's my big mama C. She's huge,
Okay.
and that was my first. That was my first bowl, and now I have like a lot. I have like over 4 sets. I'm a master. So I have like every frequency that you could possibly imagine that go along with allowing healing within the body.
Yeah, because
So
you
that's
brought
kind of how I
some.
got started. Hmm.
You brought some to the convention last year. I remember seeing them.
Yes, I did
Yeah.
actually. Yes, I did.
So you use the singing bowls for like the Rocky like sessions? Is that how this works? Is it?
I do group plays, and I'm no longer in the Treehouse Studio, the business where I
Hmm.
had the experiences in the woods. But I do group sessions. Sometimes I'll hold them publicly, but most of my work now is privately booked. People that have a venue or a home, and then I just sell tickets, and then I take individuals for spiritual coaching.
Hmm.
And so I use the spiritual coaching along with the energy work and vibrational medicine to allow these things to come to surface where people can deal with them. So that's kind of how it started.
So before we go into the experience we want to talk about, right? Now, before this experience, have you had any paranormal or experiences in other places or?
Yes, and that's what I was saying. Like as a child, I just had different things happen to me,
Hmm.
know things, feel things, very empathic, emotional reader is what I call it, can pick up on everyone's emotions. And, they say sometimes, well, that vibe when we walked in was good, or that was a sticky. Yeah, I'm right there, I had a few little, a ghost kind of.
Oh, god dang. Sorry for the technical difficulties, folk.
I had with.
Okay. Sorry about
Okay.
that. I I
That's
cut
okay.
out again. Every time we have a guest, my side cuts out.
Isn't that how it goes?
It always happens.
Always
Uh
happens. Yeah,
um so you had some experiences,
I
before.
did. But one thing I would like to interject, the more you work with sound, the more clear you become.
Mhm.
And your vibration clear. People say vibe high, and that's right. But really, we are vibing high. We just come to this earth and this matter, and it's heavy and things. So the clearer I became, the clearer everything else in the ether and the other realms kind of became. I had some experiences as a child, young, that did not come to memory until these experiences in the
Mm.
studio with the what we're talking about,
Yeah.
what we're here for.
Yeah. So let's walk into your first experience then. Let's um
Well, that was as a child, but not understanding.
yeah.
So as an adult, yes.
So the experience you had with who we think is we've mentioned him before, was Atticus. Is
Yes.
that correct, Randy? It was Atticus, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Atticus.
So how did that lead up? What were you doing
Well, I
that
was in
day?
I had a studio up at, on the mountain, and I had a gorgeous studio with all windows looking down into the valley, where I held many classes and sessions. And I had a couple of people that would come. I guess I moved open shop there in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just traveling like from hometown up to the mountain and work a couple of days and come back because I could stay overnight there. And during these sessions, every once in a while, I'd have somebody come in and go, "Have you ever heard about anything of Sasquatch?" I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about, Bigfoot. I don't know. I'm busy changing the world here, like, and other things. As Randy knows, I'm a big ancient history buff. Imagine that. But, all of these things. And I was like, so I had people say to me, "Have you ever?" And I'm like, "No. No, and then I go, well, I wonder where that rock came from flying up on the porch." Like things like that started clicking, but I'd still know. And so I moved up there to 14. In 2015, a tornado hit the studio, so we had to get construction. So I had to hold off on classes a while. So I ended up in 2016. We were still trying to finish it up, but I had on the summer solstice, June 21st, 2015, I had an outdoor event. So we had a camp over, and I was going to play the sounds into a drum circle. We would do the sound therapy, and then anybody would bring their drums and we would beat through the night. We called it the Stargazers. It was a little club community that started that particular night. And there was just, I guess, maybe like 15 people that came. It was very intimate. And we had a big bonfire as usual. And we had kind of done the sound, and we had beat on the drums. And at this point, this is going late into the night. We're cooking out at like 1:30 a.m. Well, about
That
two
sounds like a
o'clock.
good time, though.
It was a great time. And everybody, it's always wonderful. It's like just reliving, trying to get back to the roots of how we do ancient, worship and connection to Mother Earth and Father Sky. And so this was going on pretty awesome. I had people I didn't know show up from Alabama, from Kentucky, just a few people.
Yeah.
And the wind started blowing, and somebody's like on their phone going, "Oh man, the radar's looking crazy. What are we going to do?" And I was like, "Oh, that's way far away. Maybe we can blow it away or whatever." Well, at the time, the guy I was seeing, he was there, Ben, and he walked over to the bluff, and he was like standing over there. We were all over here by the campfire. We're talking like, I don't even know how many yards, Randy. It's far off. It's a good ways in the yard. And on that spot that he was standing, it's kind of like we have a driveway that goes from the pond, and then you look off the bluff. The studio is like parallel, adjacent, I mean. And so he comes running over. He's like, "You got to hear this." And I'm like, "What?" And me and him go back over there. And as the wind is coming in, it's blowing the caves underneath us. And it's going ooh, like a big didgeridoo. And it was just like vibrating everything. And we were like, "This is the coolest ever." Like, I'm like, "Have you ever had this happen?" Because being familiar with the area is like, no. And we're just sitting there and we're yelling at everybody, "Come on over. They got to hear this." And so we're all like, woo, and we're sitting there talking about it. And then all of a sudden, we heard four-wheelers down in the valley. Okay. But then the wind the howling of these caves was way bigger. And we could feel it through our feet. Well, during all this, we hear this like this screeching howl, and it wasn't just one. It went from one of the cove all the way over. And I literally, like right now, just thinking about it, I got cold chills all over me. I get a little weak because it just feels so strange, that sound. However, it was a little familiar because I was raised not far. My dad had a hunting cabin on that mountain too. So anyway, I'm like, I turn around to a friend of mine that's sitting behind me, and I went, one of the ones that's like, "You ever hear of Sasquatch?" I'm like, "No." I went, like, "That's what you're talking about." He's like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And everybody literally is frozen with their mouths open, like, and then you want to hear it more and more. But that's not how it works,
Not how it works.
And you're
That's
sitting
exactly.
there, you're sitting there going, "Please, this did not just happen." And I'm like, "Did everybody hear that?" And everybody's like, Like, what the heck? Because it's obviously not a coyote
Yeah.
and it's not a wolf and it's kind of a man, but sounds bellowing. And there was numerous. So that was my first audible
And
that
you
was,
had people with you too. So I mean, it's not
oh,
like,
yeah, about
so
15
you had
people
confirmation of like
that we
everyone being
all
like,
heard.
what was that?
Exactly. Exactly.
And these are people
Mhm.
that are from the area too, like even
Well, and
further
some
out.
from the area, some from like Alabama,
Yeah.
all this stuff. And so, we were just kind of like, I mean, it almost was crazy, y'all. It was like we all go back to eat. Nobody says nothing. We're all just like, uh,
No one wants
you
to
know.
say it.
I mean, I'm over here verbally vomiting, and that was the beginning. And in that moment, of course, what was going on, the clan, whatever you want to call the group of that were screaming, they weren't like, hey, we're screaming at these crazies up on the edge of the. No, they were something was going on down there with we heard motorcycle four wheelers, so obviously there was something they were agitated,
Yeah, they're probably
but
yelling about the four wheelers down there.
they were probably yelling about the four wheelers, and we just were blessed to be witnessing it, and so after that, we'll just say it sent me on a little bit of a spiral, and I automatically, probably I don't know, Randy, if you ever looked at that date, but it was within a few days, I decided this was way bigger than me. And I had a lot of other research to do, and I did not have time to go down this rabbit hole. That was what they were not talking to me. It was none of my business. I got to get the professionals involved, And so I went and I found local, and I emailed I don't even remember what it was. I don't even know what you guys were called at the time. It was just Sasquatch Research, Cookville, Warren County, and I emailed. And that was in 2016.
16, yep.
That was a while
And
ago.
you didn't get back to me till 2018.
Yep.
Because, and literally, I would normally say I would forget about it. No, I didn't forget about it because it kept going. By the time they showed up, I had a notepad full of stuff, and I was just like, please take this off my hands. I can't, I don't know what to do with it. Like, I don't know what's going on.
And
But
that's a common question that we've definitely gotten over the time with people who have them, that are sharing land with these woodland folk.
beautiful people, beautiful people.
Is that they're like, what do I do? It's like nothing. Like you're
I mean,
you're in their
like,
home.
exactly. And I mean, my dad had a hunting cabin up there. And the thing that got me was, as a kid, you hear this and that. My dad, which he's been gone a long time, he passed away when I was 12. But like all my uncles, they all still go hunting. He was still up on the mountain. That's my family. Well, they called him Screaming Jack. And they would talk about him. But I did not understand, in my mind, a Jack is a man. And he said, Screaming Jack hangs out up in the trees. Don't be out after dark, that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay. And I mean, I remember howls and whistles and things, but it was like, that's Jack. And I'm like, I'm thinking an old man is out in the woods. I mean, as a kid, I wasn't thinking about a man with hair all over his body.
Yeah, you're not thinking of a Bigfoot. You're thinking of like some dude who lives out on the mountainside.
Exactly. And when, even as an adult, before all this happened, people would say, because, like I said, I'm in the supernatural field anyway. I'm in the holistic, whatever you want to call it, there's all kinds of names for it these days. But people say, do you believe in Bigfoot? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, I believe that's possible. Like, I'm pretty sure they've been here longer than us. But that was just me being like in my somewhat educated mind of whatever. Like, I mean, I've seen fairies, I've seen things. People think I'm crazy. So, okay, I don't care, And so I say about Bigfoot, I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, But let me just say, when I heard that power call, because I researched the heck out of it, trying to I found a similar sound from Van Buren County. It was probably years before that actually happened. I still can't find it on YouTube again. I wish I'd have saved it. But that was that when I found that power call, I was like, yes, I knew it, and we're kind of close to that area. And I was like, yeah, But and then, you know, after 2000, between 2016 and the time, I mean, even after I met Randy and the guys, you know, and talked to them, stuff still started continually heavily happening. I'm still trying to remember exactly the time and date of the mind speaking and when that happened, but it all just becomes
It all
the
comes together, right? It all just kind of
it's
blends together.
yes, and then you have hindsight where, oh, that's what that was. Like
That's what that was. Yeah.
I'd be on the back porch, which is, you know, 40 feet up from, you know, on the bluff,
Mhm.
and a rock would just come flying up, and I'd think, what the heck?
Yeah. Where did that come from?
I'm like, a squirrel throw rocks up here. Like, I just keep on about my business, you know. But we had the night that little things happened between there and this particular night. So I could hear sometimes footsteps, like I'm looking off into the darkness of below the bluff. I'm in the tree tops of the trees.
Mhm.
I could hear shuffling down there. You know, little things happening, whatever. But this was in the fall. I'm pretty sure it's probably like 2019. It might have happened after I met you, Randy. I think that big story. I can't remember, but I was asleep and, you know, or I was laying in bed watching TV. We had campers. We had the group come back. I'd already done my little thing.
Mhm.
The tree house was open again. The studio was open, but we still had the campouts because everybody loved them. So I had retired early, and Ben had gone over to check on the campers to make sure that they didn't need anything before we turned in, make sure all the electricity was working, whatever they needed. There was just wasn't many there that night. It was actually younger kids, you know, or whatever, like 20 somethings. Instead of last time I had them all ages, you know.
Mhm.
But I was laying there, you know, I'm not, it's embarrassing, but I was watching Smurfs and I was hanging out trying to go to sleep, and my dog starts Charlie, he goes flying like I'm back in the woods from the front of the house for the parking lot. We had a parking lot, there's a street light, so the street light would kind of shine just in the edges of the trees between the house and the trees, but the rest was dark. So he came running from behind the porch, which, you know, happens all the time because there's deer. He's barking at anything that's moving, but this bark was strange. It was very ferocious, you know, like determined protector. He was an Austrian Shepherd. He went flying up there barking, and then directly behind the studio, so I'm in the back, well, here's my window, I can see everything, doors open because it's beautiful outside, you know, it's nice night. I think summer night. He's like, then he gets to the back, and like it was a cry, like,
Yeah. Something scared him.
Scared him. Now, at this point, like I said, there had been all kinds of activity between the time of the howl till this time. And so I jumped up out of bed and I ran out the back door to the balcony and I said, Charlie, leave him alone. Don't mess with him. He's bigger than you. And then I hear him like he's getting petted. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know. And I mean, I'm all hair, you know, and I'm like, whoa. And about that time, as I'm experiencing this, then I hear whack, boom, and the whole shake, whack, boom, and I see the trees moving. Charlie comes darting back around to the front of the house, and I watch the trees start to part down. You know, I can't see, but I can see the movement. And then about that time, Ben and two campers, two young guys, bust in the apartment door, which was above the studio, which was where I was. And they're like, did you hear that? Oh my gosh. So you know, they heard it. I heard it, like they heard that, you know, and we're all just like, so you would think so much. Yeah. And so I was really tired from prepping, and I just was like, lay down. They went back over there. Of course, we talked about it for a minute, and we're like looking and, you know, whatever. And they went on to bed, and finally I fell asleep. Well, in the wee hours of the morning, it had to be around 3 o'clock or something like that. And it was quiet, you know, like not a sound in the forest. Now we all know what that means now. But I didn't then.
Yeah.
I mean, I just hadn't correlated. Yeah. And so I woke up out of like a hot flash, you know, like with all the hair on my body standing up. And I mean, I'm right there by the door.
Mm-hmm.
I bust out, I go out the door, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling very uneasy, like I might throw up, just kind of and I'm up against, and I'm not on the railings, I'm up against in the darkness of the porch. And I turned to the left, and it was like, like a rectangle sized porch. And I turned to the left, and I walk over to the balcony, and there's like the tree line, and the street light's shining through, so it's just hitting the edges of the limbs, and it kind of fades on down. And I'm just like I'm looking at you guys, I'm like staring, and I'm like, there's this dark spot, and I'm like, and even right now I feel it, like my knees get very weak when I even talk about it, because and it's, to me, it wasn't scary. It was exhilarating. Number one, I'm 40 feet up anyway. So you know what I mean? I'm not down there like bumping into anybody in the woods. I'm in my own safe place, but I'm still shaking, and I'm looking over the balcony. And when I peer my face out, the light from the street light hits my face, and I'm like looking down there, and I'm like, show your face, just show me. If you're there, show me. And then I'm thinking it,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it, but I'm just like, not crazy.
Yeah, just show me so I can feel like I
show
know
me.
this is you.
And I feel like time was suspended there for a minute, and he steps out into the light, and the street light hits his face, and I mean, like, his head is coned and it's balding. Like, you can see the face. Like, now I know they're oily. I didn't really understand any of that now, but I'm sure that was a reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking, he's staring right at me, and I'm staring now. I say I'm looking at his eyes, but his eyes were over the like browed, and so the eyes were back, deep within, like
sunken in,
set back. But all I saw was this kind eyes, like I was just looking, and scary red hair, like what I could see. It was like a forward step, like he just standing there, and I'm just about to fall over, hanging on, and I don't want to let go. I want to keep looking. I don't even want to blink. But like I about feel like I'm gonna pass out or throw up because this smell was a lot too.
I was just about to say, was there any smell?
Yes, there was already smells before this happened, and then I was like, okay, that's you, huh? But like I stepped back against the wall like this, and then I stepped back, and I was like, okay, that did not just happen. That did not just happen to me. And I'm like, yeah, it did. It happened, because all these other things. So then I stepped back again to the same place, and I looked down, and it's just a moving branch. And it was a still night, just, and I felt like he was still there, but he wasn't letting me see him, and I just started crying. I was just crying and crying and kind of panicky feeling, anxiety, but it was almost like, knew it. I knew it. I knew you were down there, and and so I go back, and you would think
it feels
most
like
people,
he was like mimicking you, because you, like you said, you kind of showed yourself, because then the light hit
I showed myself,
and
then
he
he showed
stepped forward.
Because I was thinking it in my mind, show your face, and so you would think, and I know a lot of people, I mean, look, I've been called all kinds of crazy, and for the longest time, that's right. I ain't telling anybody about this, okay? I'm not saying I didn't tell, but I had to know, how can you tell if you don't really know what the hell's going on? You're just like, I don't know how to explain this, So
it's what I struggled with too after my first experience. People are like,
yes,
what happened? I'm like,
we all do, honey. We all do, And so I lay down. And everybody goes, oh, if you really saw him, how could you sleep? I said, that's what I asked myself. But it wasn't a sleep. It was a trance. I got knocked out. And when I got knocked out, that's when all the visuals and the speaking began. And I was out, but I was in a dream state. Like, I know it's a theta because that's what I work to help others get in different states of, But so I was having a lot of lucidness going on. And the reason that I know his name is Atticus is because the visuals were from To Kill a Mockingbird movie. Okay.
Yeah.
And there was clips, and the girl was screaming Atticus in one of the clips of the movie.
Yep.
And that stopped. The movie pulled away in my mind. And then I heard Atticus.
Hmm.
And I popped right up and I said, that's your, I'm not going to say the words the
Yeah.
colorful words that came out of my mouth, but I was like, that's your name?
Yeah.
And then, yes. And then I closed my eyes. And first thing is, I was like, I've got to get downstairs to the studio and play Big Mama C. She's a C note. So I went downstairs. I put her, sit down on the floor, put her between my legs like I do. And I lifted the windows and I just started, making it right. She was wailing through the woods. And then I passed out again. And when I passed out, when I woke back up, I had all kinds of notes to write, which was a personal message to me. And that I can't really disclose,
Yeah.
It was just more about my placement for them and for what was coming. And I did not understand it. But as the years go by, check, check, check. And I'm like, okay, And so, but he was clear about his name, and then it got to where I also sang, and I would sing off the porch. I would put the speakers out, and we would the karaoke set or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they would come at night. I could hear everything get quiet. I'd sing, I'd hear bird whistles. Nothing was going on, not even a damn cricket, y'all. And it's like, how can the forest be this freaking quiet?
Yeah.
I would sit and meditate and listen to the crickets and the cicadas at points, where it like just goes on and uses sound. But at that moment, it's silent. And I mean, we had all kinds of experiences after that because at that point, he knew I knew. And I also was going through some personal illness that I was really unaware of. And so I call it like, he was my healer.
He came out to see.
Brought,
He's like, "What's going on with
brought
you?"
me, he brought me so much hope, it makes me cry because it was the beautiful thing, and he just continued to play, and just I got pictures of footprints. I got way off on the bluff over there one day when I was singing. Me and my girlfriend were on the porch and we saw this red, and I'm like, did a cedar tree split in half? Because that's really big and far, like, and then
Yeah.
she was even like, is that a piece of equipment over there? I mean, we're talking, I don't even know how far that is, way over the ridge, and it's wintertime at this point, December, so all the leaves are down. And it was around sunset, and we're sitting there just trying to discuss it, and it sits down like, and I get my camera automatically click. I sent that to Randy. You can't
Yeah.
really tell.
Yeah.
I've had people break it apart and say that's just logs. I'm like, okay, if logs could sit, all right, but I didn't get the movement, but I got the
Yeah.
picture.
Now, when you saw Atticus the first time, when he stepped out into the light,
The only time I've seen his face, the only
yeah.
time.
But because you're up high, you were looking down on him.
Which he didn't look that far down.
Yeah, I was about to ask, like, how big was
He's
he?
like the tree, like he was half the tree. And I'm a little person. I'm like 5 feet,
Yeah, you are.
I have a
small
hard
peanut.
time with measurements and stuff, but I was fortunate enough to be a dancer at a young age, and I went all over the world. I went to Japan. I got my pictures made with the NBA players, okay? We're talking, he's taller than that because I came to some of them their waist, some below their waist, like Karl Malone. I got a picture with him and a couple other tall dudes. So when I'm looking down, I would just think if a person was down there, I wouldn't be able to see their face like I could see. I'm like 40, I mean, maybe like close to 40 feet, like I think. So he was, half that tree down there.
Yeah.
I mean, I would estimate anywhere from, I would say 9 feet would be short. So anywhere from 10 to 12, something in that area.
Big. It's so big.
Yeah, huge, dude. And I mean, in the footprints, it feels like I could crawl inside the footprint, but and not like that. But that's, that's kind of what.
I've been shown another photo. Now, I don't know if it's Atticus. That was from a friend of ours that's in the area. He had shown me a really good photo of when he says it's the same, squatch that we deal with,
The
and
same squash, yeah.
yeah, and I was. You can't really tell the photo of like the hair color, but I was like, please be Atticus, please be Atticus.
I know,
'Cause it's
right?
massive. It's so huge. And I'm like,
I
you look at it and you're like, oh my God.
And you think like, how would that feel? Like I was up. Now that's what I'm saying. You know, I haven't really looked at other people's stories till I figured mine together. I have a
Mhm.
children's book that will be published soon, Adventures of Atticus and Tree. But
That's awesome.
I love it.
yes,
I love
I
that.
also wrote a song. I'm a singer, so I wrote a song. It's called Wild Man. But you know, I had to come to terms with all mine. I'm one of these creators and artists. I don't like to be exposed to other people's art until I get where I'm going. I don't want it to influence me, you know, or whatever. And the only thing I had researched prior to this was the call.
Mhm.
So when I got the psychic, like telepathic communication, I had no idea that was called mind speak at the time till recent, you know, learning about that. And then I have other memories and other things of seeing cloaking, but I wasn't, I think I told Randy, like, it was like one day there's like a puddle in the trees, and I'm like,
Yeah.
We had
what, you know, what's in my coffee? Lion's mane, that's it. Like, what's going on? Like, I couldn't, you know, I was like, am I tripping? Like, that looks liquid.
we had someone that the Houston and Randy went out and interviewed, and just describing kind of what you were describing, that they had an experience with something along those lines. Something he called it looked like a translucent like mollusk creature.
Yes.
Like a really weird.
And it's just fluid. But when you know about frequency, and see, when I saw Atticus that first and only time, I pray every day that I get to look at that beautiful face again. You know, it's burned in my memory. But you know, I did not, even being in the supernatural, I still did not lock that in. Do you understand what I mean? To me, it was like, this is an ancient, this could be a some type of primate, you know, in my mind, like, or like, you
An
know, the missing
ancestor of
link.
ours.
Yeah, but then,
a
you know,
cousin.
as I become more and more aware in the forest with, and you know, a practicing shaman, it like hit me like, duh, you know, 'cause animals are so much more aware of what's going on. Like even the cats, I can speak to them with my mind, you know, that I go to people's houses. They call me when their cats are acting crazy. I go over there and I get them wherever they're at, and they don't even, I just talk to them and they walk over. They get down from the tree. And so it was like, wow, of course, you know, if you think about these beings being here so long and ancient, then they're way more aware and their senses are more dimensional than we could possibly ever begin to understand as a human. I mean, it doesn't fit any category. You can make it whatever, you can try, but like we don't know because we can, I feel like we have some of the capabilities of that. We just have been dumbed down or held down, you know, in certain ways. And I mean, look at what we're exposed to. You know, you go out, and I know all you guys go out in the woods all the time. The more you're out there, the more you begin to be more aware.
Yeah.
The longer you get settled into that reality, you know what I'm saying? There's no humming of the lines or all that. You're listening to pure rhythm of nature. And so that's when I was like, oh, wait a minute, that was a cloak. And then that was mind speaking. You know, he's talking, which I knew he was talking to me telepathic, but, and I know this sounds really ego, whatever, but at the moment I'm like, am I the only one that they've ever talked to in their mind? Like, I had no idea because I'm just over here, this little country fried shaman up in the woods, you know, like, okay. But
at
my
that point,
Reiki
you're
master,
hoping they're a chatterbox to be like, yeah,
I'm
I'm
hoping.
listening.
Yes, I'm like, you know, I mean, I will. I'll go down. I'll just be like, with my hardest thoughts. Some days I don't get nothing.
You should get that trademarked, Tree. Country
What?
Fried Shaman. That's pretty
Oh,
good.
it's on my YouTube channel.
Oh, so
That's
They
so
call me.
good.
I am a country fried shaman because I will lay it to you like a Middle Tennessee girl. It's not really redneck, but you know I can be, but I don't. But I'm out there, and I grew up in those woods on that very same mountain.
Yeah.
I can smell the mushrooms when they began. I mean I'm in there, you know? And
Mhm.
so of course they're gonna come to a shaman, right? Like I
Mhm.
felt like so now you guys kind of understand. And I talked to Randy a little bit. Just there's some things that I feel that they've been nudging me to check on and nudging me to find out about, you know. So there's all that. But
They're
my
like,
Reiki
there's a
master,
group of guys trying to find us right now. You gotta stop.
yeah,
It's
well, and
us.
that's the thing. It's like I battled myself about keeping them sacred and private, but I was told, shown, or whatever, however it is, that now's the time.
You know,
It's coming. They said it's coming.
I had that same when I first went into this was kind of like, you know, as a filmmaker, I was like, oh, I'm here to document. I'm here to try to, you know, at least
Right.
document if they're the last ones or something like that. And it did turn into that whole, this is sacred. I want to protect this, and I don't want to tell anybody about this because then what if something happens to them because I said
Right.
something? And I we talk about it all the time.
It's a fine line, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
and I mean, I haven't shared any of my information with anybody besides, you know, I'm writing the book and stuff, but I mean the real stuff except for Randy and the guys
Yeah.
because you know they're here, they're out there in the trenches, they're out there, you know, in the woods and they're doing their thing. And I admire them so much and I hope they let me go along, please, next time. But
Oh, absolutely.
you know, I'm ready. I got my new hip and everything, okay? So I mean, you know, my Reiki master teacher though, I've been doing my bowl playing for 20 years. Pretty long time in this. There's all kinds of new things that people doing all the time now. You know, but I'm literally when I quit saying I play the bowls to now I'm a sound alchemist because I do it with intent and I know what I'm doing. You know, and I have a goal and a purpose. But or sometimes it's just meditation. I can do that. But my Reiki master teacher, I studied under her for 8 years, and I just recently connected with her, which we always talk, but she came through Tennessee, and I got to hang out with her. And we were talking about the weekend that I got my master teacher attunement, and it was this. We were there for the weekend. We were up in northern Tennessee in Jolton, near Jolton,
Hmm.
on a lake in a lake house, and it was about 7 of us. And it was her last bunch to run through. You know, I'm the only one that was like, no, I'm not ready. 8 years later, she's like, you're getting a team that you're doing it, you know. So
Good
I
time.
like come and we go through this little regiment fasting and all this stuff that you do for spiritual. So on Saturday morning, we were going to have a group meditation and everything. And we had actually, she and I sat out by the fire the night before. It was around the lake, you know, and had some visitation from owls and birds and things like that. But the next morning, she sent out a group text and said everything is canceled as of right now to 11:30 p.m. 11:30 a.m. Tree, I need you in my quarters. And I'm like, what the heck, you
Oh,
know?
That's
So
scary.
I go down to her quarters, and she's in a trance like state. And now we know what this means, but at the time, this is before any experience that I could say, right? This was like before I even been moved in the mountain,
Hmm.
before I had even gotten my master, before I started, I was still teaching in massage. Like it was a long time ago. And she proceeded to tell me that there was a being that was coming through for me. And she said, all I can say, I can't see his face, but he's like the predator when he hides.
Hmm.
The movie The Predator.
Yeah.
Well, hell, I'm thinking this big old lizard being is like walking, you know, I'm
The
like,
big old
what's he got
mandibles.
to do with me? And
Yeah.
she was just like, she didn't say cloak. You know, it was like, she said, he's silvery. He's hiding
Hides.
behind an
Yeah.
envelope. And she said, he's always talking to you. And I was like, okay. So I go through, like we finished it, and literally not until she visited this last summer did I tell her now that all made sense because I used to play in the creek on that very mountain, you know,
Hmm.
which is right over on Long Mountain, you know. I mean, Rainy knows what I'm talking about over there. And so evidently they know about me. They've known me since I was young. I just had no idea.
Might
it
have a
makes
long
sense.
memory. I think they have a
Yeah.
long memory.
Yeah, and I'm sure my dad, like my family, I mean, I'm a Cherokee partial. Like my family has land still on top of the mountain
Hmm.
that is impartial to that. So, you
Because
know,
you
I
said
just,
your family, your dad had the hunting cabin up in the
mhm,
woods, and they would your
mhm.
uncles and stuff and brother or your family would go up there a bunch. Did they ever come back with
They
any?
called him Screaming Jack,
And they
and they
just
would
would hear
say
them.
stuff. they would hear him. They would, I mean, I remember hearing yelling,
Yeah.
like whooping, whatever, and then being like, "That's Screaming Jack. He's screaming," and I'm like, "That old man."
This is what I try to explain to other people who aren't like out here and stuff and looking and stuff. It's just like, no, you need to understand, like, there's like a history of this.
Yes,
Like
just
generational
ancient.
history of people who have experienced this, and that they just don't talk about. It's just like, hey, that's just the way the world is. The Screaming Jacks are out in the woods, or the Haints are hollering
Right.
down in the hollow.
Like my family respected that, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. And I'm very fortunate to live where like our families and everybody is. But the thing is there's so many outsiders moving into the area now because everybody's coming to God's country, and things are flipping over. Like the certain area, new people are buying and whatever. So in defense, a lot of these farms that are around here have been so many generations. We're talking to the hidden Cherokee. To when the Cherokee was here, like, well, this was North Carolina territory. This area was like not really a battle. It was, archaeology or whatever. So where it goes back so far, and like it's been on somebody's land. So like when 7 generations finally move away and they go sell the old farm place and they divide it up into like, 1,000 acres and all these little houses and people are living like that's like yes, that's the thing, and so but they've been around so long, so those families that have known them forever, I mean, they just kind of, it's like it's just known.
Yeah.
Which is just like when I finally realized Screaming Jack is maybe
This.
Atticus's dad, or maybe it's Atticus, I don't know.
Yeah, it probably
But they
is.
said Screaming Jack was black. He was black. And I say that nobody said black fur. They said he is black and his name is Screaming Jack. And I just thought it was a little old man, or a big old man, whatever you want to say. Somebody who lives feral in the woods, which I didn't have a problem with because I love the woods. I'm partial feral anyway,
Oh, I love the outdoors. I love the woods of Tennessee. I will say that the woods up here aren't as cool. I think because I grew
Where
up
are
here.
you at? Where are you
I'm
located?
up in Massachusetts.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little. Yeah, it's not as cool.
Different area.
I tell people, they're like, "What's it like down there?" I'm like, "It's a fantasy forest. It's the trees are massive.
And the waterfalls, and like, I mean, you can just go and you find little waterfalls here and there, and it's like people that come to visit that I take hikes like, oh, I don't want to leave. I'm like, there's one right around the corner, another one if you want to keep walking.
Randy's just like, there's cave here. Here's a cave. Here's a
cave. Here's a cave. Yeah. I had a friend recently share with me an experience. He actually sent me a video where he was floating down the river, and it's a kind of a secluded area that most kayakers don't go. And he said a big boulder came flying from the top of the ridge down and missed his boat. And then he parked and turned on his camera. And then kerplunk not long later. I mean, because you don't see anything except you hear it. You see the camera, him in the boat, but it's like, and I said, when did that happen? It's like years ago. I'm like, why didn't you ever tell me? He goes, I didn't want to tell anybody what happened.
Exactly.
Like, I knew it was Bigfoot.
You don't
and I'm
want to
like,
tell anyone.
Yeah.
He's like, everybody knows he's out there. I'm like, I guess they do,
I sat on my own footage for like 10 years and never released it until we started doing the podcast. And it was like, what am I doing with it?
Well, then you look at it like now is the time. You can see it everywhere.
Yeah.
With the way that we are able to communicate, you there, us here, and all of this. And it was like I struggled with that sacredness, and I still do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you guys are aware of the, the results of the DNA test. Yeah. And what that means. Like, I mean, that's something I wanted to talk to the guys about. Like, what does that mean for those that we love dearly, the clans that we love? Like, if they're known, does that mean everybody has to stay away and leave them alone? Or is that just going to cause more issues? Like, that's the big question for me anyway. Yeah. And I think, Tree, they're ancient. We're the little peons. I mean, they're going to live and we won't.
Yeah, but my whole, my issue is we are probably, like, the way I would look at it is like conservation land and making sure that we don't have any way of like, like you're saying, like these developments coming in, or even people just selling off their land and like, it's just getting turned into like developments. It's like, it's pushing into their area.
Very much so. Very much so.
That's where it's going to start. We're going to start seeing a lot more stuff because we're encroaching into their territory, and they're going to be like, what the hell? Like it used to just be a
Yeah.
farmhouse here. Now it's
Right. Well, and I feel like I hear other stories, as I've listened to podcasts and things where you hear these aggressive
Mhm.
Sasquatch, and I just can't imagine that because look how passive this clan that lives close to us here. I mean, I know there's probably more on and around and, around the coast, but the one specifically that was under, I don't know if I'm living on top of their cave or I'm like right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I still like, I'm looking for a house over there. I'm
Well,
looking for a
that's
house in the cove or above the cove or somebody, I got family that live over on there. So I'm always in their backyard. I'm always down there. I got knocking on the camera. I go down there and I do my chant. I have a special song that I sing. And he used to come when I would sing the song, And I still go down to the river and sing it. And
do you
I've
get
learned a lot about
responses?
frequency. Yes. And this song just came, like it just came out, you know, when I was out of meditation one night up on the bluff. And it just came out and I just called it my forest lullaby. But it's almost like I know they feel me, now we don't know how and what power that is. But vocally, I always make a point to do the song to let them know that I'm there when I do arrive.
Randy has that
Because
too.
it
Randy does something to let
does
him know it's him. He has his like way of doing it. But like
his
my
way. And I feel like that's
one
that's
of
just
my
our way of, hey,
yeah,
greeting you. Um,
one of my first
so yeah, I
experiences
mean,
though I had like I guess like an intelligent communication between me and it. Like I whistled it, it clacked rocks back in the same beat, and we had kind of a back and forth for a little bit, and that
oh
to this day
nice.
that still kind of
Oh yeah.
makes my brain fry a little bit because I was just like, what happened there, you know?
I went down, this has been October of this last fall, okay? I was down in the cove by the water, where I go, sometimes I better not tell on myself, but I do sleep down there sometimes because I just don't want to be that far when I feel I'm being called.
Mm.
But I
You
went
sleep
there in the
down in there?
afternoon.
You sleep down there?
Yeah,
Oh, you're
yeah,
brave. You're brave.
I am. Listen, and what's crazy is I go by myself. Well, I got two little stories. So I'll tell you the October first. The other one was in June of this last or July of the last year, but this is in October. I go by myself. It's on a Sunday afternoon. We're talking
Hmm.
8 o'clock in the afternoon. Leaves are orangey. Everything's all bright and shiny. And I get down there and I do my vocal thing and I wait and then I hear knocking and I'm like, it's far, far away. Like, and I'm here. The water's here. I hear it over there, but we're dealing with echoes and all kinds of stuff. So somebody could be right here and you could hear it over there. I don't know. The coves and the way the
Yeah.
limestone works is crazy. Well, I heard the knocking. And of course, it kept being cars go over the bridge. I'm like, leave me alone. I'm trying to record. And the recording is crappy. It's on my phone, but it was more for me to go, you have to really listen. But that day, it was like, I heard it was like a consistent knock, like there was no count. And then I was like, in my mind, I said, let's count. Give me three. It's like,
Hmm.
I waited. I'm like, what? Then it was 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 9 and back. And it took hours, okay?
Yeah.
But it happened, and and I'm hitting record and record. My battery's gonna die, and I'm like, nobody's gonna believe this. Nobody's gonna
Yeah.
ever believe this. Like, I'm like, give me, and it's happening, and then the recording dies, or I think it does anyway. I still sitting there waiting, and then this huge rock hit the water, and I don't know where it came from. I never saw him that day. And then back in one night, this was like in July. It was a hot summer night, and there was a student of mine and he messaged me. He was kind of having a rough night. And I said, listen, I'm kind of out uh, doing some business with my forest friends right now. I can't really
Hmm.
talk on the phone, but you're more than welcome. If I give you the location, you can come sit with me. Well, he came and we're sitting there, on yoga mats, like, and the water's right in front of us. And I smell him. you know, and it's like this urine, like wet dog urine.
Yeah.
He looks at me and I'm like, he's here.
It's a
I've been waiting
strong
on him all
musk.
night. Yeah, and then I start getting this guttural growl, just, you know, purr. And the reason I know it's him instead of a panther or something that's going to eat me is because I don't feel threatened
Mm.
when it's, you know what I mean? And even that smell was very remarkable. You know, that's him, but I don't feel threatened. Whereas some nights I've gone down by myself and I'm like, I feel like food for a bear. Whatever's over there is not Atticus. I'm out, you know.
Yeah.
But this night, you know, it was like there was a growl. And I asked my student, I said, are you prepared if this is a panther to run really fast? He goes, I'm going home.
Yeah, we're gonna
He's
have to
like, I'm
leave.
out. I'm just like, Miss Tree, I can't leave you here. I'm like, you better leave me here. I got, you know, so, and then after he left, it was like the forest was quiet, but no noise. He did not want him there. He did not want him there. He want, you know, I didn't get anything else. I just sat in meditation, but that was this last summer. So,
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
yeah.
Now, have you, as you kind of went down the rabbit hole of coming into all this stuff, right? Have you heard the theory that they can use infrasound to kind of to zap people, as it's kind of been
Well,
termed?
yeah.
Because Randy had an experience like that, and I don't know because
Yes.
you kind of
And
deal
I
with
can
on
do
that
that
level.
too. I can do that too with these. That's why I know they can do that. Like there's
zap 'em
frequency. Now
back.
I don't know how they emit those frequencies other than because
Yeah.
I've got tools, you know.
I feel like
But
they
yeah.
have such big chests that they can just like, I don't know, resonate
Well,
inside like big ass
it
rib
is.
cage.
It's something I've been able to do as a young child. I can purr. You know, I can make these noises, and I've heard that before, and I'll do it back to them, you know. But so I'm sure there's some sort of noise or silence, or even who knows? They could just maybe command us.
Yeah.
Because if we're, you know, like pray or I don't know, I mean, they're in the woods like that, you know. So I do believe that. I believe that their powers are way beyond our understanding, you know.
Oh, I
But
completely agree.
but the way that I understand vibration and frequency, even though I don't understand it all, I know that's possible. Because I do that. I will change brainwave patterns and states. And wouldn't you say, Randy, like your brainwave pattern changed when that happened? Because
Oh,
you
yeah.
just, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like you go into like Delta, you know, is a deep sleep. And so you know, there's certain plays and certain sequences of bowls I can do to put somebody into that state.
Yeah. I literally had to, when it happened to me, it felt like every bit of energy had got just sapped out of me. And I literally had to lay down and go to sleep for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
The Catman just sitting there with you.
Gato just sat there like the whole time with him knocking back and forth
around him
on this ridge. And he was like, you know, and I'm laying there.
That's my nightmare.
Is
that would happen. I've had a nightmare that me and Randy were out and he had to go down. Something happened and then I was just stuck out in the middle of the woods and these things were all around and I'm just trying to get Randy up. Like, come on.
I thought you was going to say your nightmare was you passed out and Catman running guardian.
Catman would protect me.
Yeah.
He'd get me out of there.
He's in.
He'd be fine.
You know?
Back flipping over fences on the way out.
Yeah. I'd wake up the Catman.
Sounds about right.
Fending him off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, we've dealt with at certain times in our primary location, we've had the camera didn't pick it up, but we had this weird sound wave come through the wood line. Just like in threes, and then we'd stop, and then we go forward, and then we get like a and you could just like hear it. It was so low frequency, but you could feel it pass. And it was like, what was that?
You know, that's that bass. And that gets back to the singing bowls, you know, like my big mama C, she's a C note. So in my world, that's root chakra. That's earth. So C note, you know? And I don't know particularly which note is pulling them, but that's one of those that's that hum that's so low, that and the A note that is like almost, and so they could go into a lower octave somehow and make those sounds. I mean, think about how big their diaphragm and their chest, and they may have 4 lungs. We don't know. They may have
That's
one for
true.
sound and one for breathing. I mean, who knows?
Oh, that'd be cool.
Wouldn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
cows got different. They got stomachs,
Yeah, they got multiple stomachs
and
and
it
stuff.
because the way that they can, like that guttural growl, that purr that night, like he knew I purred. He started purring, and then it got gritty and like growling. I don't know how to explain it. Really, it's just this
real guttural.
really deep. It's almost like, am I hearing this? Because I'm sure feeling it. Am I hearing this?
That's what
It's
when
amazing.
we're hearing those waves of sound, it was on the camera. You can hear us all you see us all like slow down and just kind of like look around at each other, and then finally one of us, Randy's like, "You're hearing that, right?" And like all of us like, "Okay, I'm hearing that." I'm like, "I don't know if the camera's picking it up," and it didn't, but
Right.
like we had that moment of like, "Am I hearing this? Is this actually
You all
happening?"
confirmed it. Everybody
Yeah.
there confirmed it,
Yeah.
And that's the big thing I found with these experiences, you can do everything, everything can happen to you when you're alone.
Yeah.
But if you're lucky enough for somebody else to be there to witness it, then hallelujah, because
Yeah.
that means, okay, I'm not crazy. This is really going down,
Yes.
I mean, and
Amen.
it's funny, like I look back over my life and like literally, I mean, I've had snakes, they just come to me, like animals just come to me. Like I went to Florida to kayak, and I was like, I don't want to get in the water if there's alligators. They're like, why? I'm like, the alligators will love me, And so when I finally told the story, okay, I saw this as of course you did, he's going to come to you. Of course he's going to come to you, And even our neighbor, like my neighbor at the time, she had an experience of his face print on her glass, and it was all oily. They chalked it to get it. And then when she comes down to see me, which I had not met her, I was waiting on Randy and them to show up that day. And this big old truck pulls up, and I thought it was them. And this little lady gets out, and she walks over and says, "Is anything weird happening here?" I'm like, "All kinds of weird stuff. What are you talking about? Like, are we talking ghosts? Are we talking?" Then I'm in my mind, I'm like, "Are we talking about what I think we're talking about?" And she goes, "Let me show
what
you."
weirdness?
She pulls,
You
yeah,
won.
she shows up her phone. She goes, "This face," and I just started crying. I said, "That's him." And all I could see was the imprint of the nose and the mouth, but I could tell, the his fingers up against, and the balding, like you could see or I say balding, but it was like
long forehead.
A
oil
hairline.
with a little bit of hair. Yeah, like oil, like.
Yeah.
And she, and we just cried, and she's like, "I'm not crazy." She'd been having these experiences for a really long time. And I had Tibetan prayer flags in my window, and so does she. So that made us go, that probably has nothing to do with the same, does it? Like, I don't know.
No.
Is that something? I don't know. But then I found out she had a little barn with a studio, she karaoke'd. And so did I. So there was sound involved.
Yeah.
And we had music shows at this venue that where the treehouse was. We had music. I kind of was like worried about that bothering them, and I was told no, they love it. They want more music. They loves it when that happens, because there's lots of activity. People would have all kinds of experiences in the amphitheater. Rocks would just come flying up, and I'm like, yeah.
That's the one thing we haven't really experimented with our stuff is just doing music out there with them.
Yeah.
Like we really haven't done that. It's been, and we've talked about it too. We've been like, we should definitely like just blare some music out there and just see what happens.
Well, and you got to think about the frequency too, and this is just me as a sound alchemist. Watch what you're putting out there, because it could evoke some things that we don't want. I mean, like any type of aggressive music.
Oh no,
like
I'd want something like
I've had that happen at the stage, like aggressive, I mean, I'm thinking soothing classical things that are in a pattern of a frequency that is, now I've done a little bit of research about some other people who've messed around with sound, and it goes back ancient with ancient, I guess, maybe religious type music or tones or things like that, and so that's what made me go, okay, this is making sense, with the singing bowls, because I have Tibetan bowls and I have quartz bowls. I have pure quartz, and then I have an alchemized set that's like burned with platinum gold and like amethyst, and each bowl has its own and it's a very high pitch ring. I can go in
Mhm.
different octaves with these. So I kind of got the earth, all the way up to the ether. I'm excited just to experiment in the future and see what goes down. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm always carrying something with me, even if it's my harmonica when I go to the woods. It's something, whatever it is, just to kind of play around and
It's a way
see
to
what happens.
communicate. It's like almost it's like having a way
Absolutely.
to communicate with them in some way, just hey, I'm here. It's me. It's
It's
me.
me.
I'm the one who comes and brings
Right.
the
Yeah.
music.
And I'm soon, and that's whatever I'm doing, even if you don't know it's me. I've wondered about that too. Like if I were to go to areas, say up in Massachusetts, where they don't know me, this clan here, no, I feel like they do, like go there.
Yeah.
Like the only common denominator would be the sound,
Yeah.
like expose, that those sounds, those tones, frequencies to them, because it's like if what your guys are experiencing with that low and how you just zap out or you feel the waves of it, they're very aware and they're very, I guess, probably experienced in that way.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have a
even the animal kingdom that has sounds, like they call it mating and all those kind of things. So,
and that's why I explain to people is like when we go out and do this, it's like we're in their territory. We're in their home and like they're the master there, and that's why we're not catching them because they got home field advantage.
and
They know
they're
that
not going
place.
to show themselves unless
Mm-mm.
they want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like something that, which my little children's book, it kind of goes, it's just introducing, kind of like letting the kids know what they are,
Mm-hmm.
what is what they've told me to explain to the children. I was told to explain to the children, and that they have these things, like they have mind speak, they have this, they have that, they have different things that humans don't know about, and they have these special gifts, but they also have guidelines, or like not really rules, but things that they go by. Showing their face to a human can bring great harm to their family, their clans. That's something that it's almost like it feels like it's just not a defense, but a protection, like so
Is it like
that.
taboo for them to show their face?
That's what we.
Yes, that's the word. Like
Yeah, it's
taboo
like
for
a
them to
bad
show their
omen for
face.
them.
They have a belief about it. They have a belief about it.
And
And
we've
so by
had discussions about that. Is like what is their culture? What's this? Because we've heard stories from through time. There's a very notable one we've talked about a tracker that was taken.
Mhm.
And when he kind of was brought to where they were, there was like 30 of them, and they were all kind of talking and discussing him. But one thing he noted is that the women Squatch would come up and kind of look at his face, and then they'd be like, "Ooh," like oh, I shouldn't be
Yeah.
looking at you, and like
Yes. Yes. So see that came through to me, that the only reason that he showed himself, there was a reason that he showed himself to me, because like the purity, I was told, of my heart and what my heart looks like to them. It's very large and glowing. And they have that too. So it was a little bit of like, that's why we are being connected to you. But that's not a thing that happens. It is a taboo. It's like a thing they don't do, because they're told it's just a separate thing. I don't really know back in the tribal times, as far as like I've talked to some people in Arizona. I can't remember what tribe, but the guy was telling me about, there were 5 different types of Squatch that they knew in their tribes, because they still live tribal there or whatever in their council.
Mhm.
And that his great great grandfather actually was part of a meeting of the chiefs, or the leaders of this clan specific, with the natives, and that they would have council meetings about the territory, and they were aware of each other. And this goes back so far.
Yeah.
So see, right here in Tennessee, everybody got up and left they went the Trail of Tears. Like, I had people come around and go, well, where's the shaman of the land? I'm like, you're looking at her. Well, you're not. I was like, well, you know what? Everybody left.
Yeah, everyone's
Like,
gone.
we had to reincarnate, evoke, from ancestral blood
Mhm.
because that's just not the way it's done, now. And there's hidden Cherokee, there's bloodline, but it's something that I feel like now is the time. There's going to be a time where this is going to be, I don't know when it's going to be, where we are going to either somehow coexist or something's going to happen where we must bind together. And that's what I tell everybody. They're like, well, are you prepared for the apocalypse? I'm like, actually, I'm going to the woods, my feral friends.
Yeah.
I'm just going to
I'm going out with the Bigfoot.
They know what's going on. I'm good, but really that's one of the things they want, about showing their face. So that's why their communication is a little bit different. When they're like, it's funny because you know how little kids are like, watch me, jumping on the trampoline or whatever they're doing, playing the ball. It's like in the woods when they're hiding, but we're getting knocks and we're getting this, or we're even getting breathing, or maybe they're emitting sound waves. They're like, hey,
We're over here.
And we don't even know the language.
No.
We're like, it's a nice night. Nobody's even paying attention.
Yeah, we're just
So
out
it's
here
almost
walking
like-
around.
It's almost like validation too for them. Like, are we? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, hey,
the
we see you. Yeah,
communication.
we hear you.
yeah. So, and I mean, face it, humans are nasty creatures.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
we are.
We're stomping around making all kinds of messes. We're causing havoc. And literally, it's like they, I say they because I feel like I don't know if it's him and they tell him or they talk, but we are, they want to they just want to help us. Like we are just dumb.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's
They're probably like,
oh
what are
my
you doing?
They
Come out
are like,
here. Come out
what
to the
are you
woods."
doing? But they take little things from our reality. I say that because, like, I mean, anything like, pair of glasses left in the woods or
I mean, we leave
whatever,
them
lip
stuff.
gloss, flashlight, like
Machete.
I was shown little collections of things in my mind, like little things, but bottle caps,
Mhm.
things that they just don't. Now I've left offerings when all this went down, and I was homeschooling my kid, my youngest, and one day I'm like, okay, we're taking an offering down to the offering rock. And we took a little alien that we got a little toy thing, we took a banana and we took a sparkly, like, fake rock, but it was a little sparkle,
Mhm.
and we left it down there. And the next day the banana was gone, which that could have been a raccoon or anything,
Yeah.
and the sparkly thing was gone, but the alien was there, a little green alien. It stayed on the rock. My son went down. He said it was turned around, but it was still there in the same place. And then we went back 2 days later, and the little sparkly stone was back, but it was on top of a leaf.
Giving
Oh,
it back.
nice.
And that's, I used to leave them. I had a couple of places for offering. I left them watermelons, pineapples. They love mangoes, apples.
Mm.
Yeah,
But the water.
we left mangoes out once, and 2 weeks went by, and we had them gift us a mango back where they had saved mangoes,
Oh wow!
and
was
we went back to
fine.
where we were gifting the stuff, and there was just a mango sitting there.
It's their way of saying thank you. You recognize me. This is the thing. Now I did notice the pineapple would go, but it would come back. Like, I just don't know if they knew what to do with it.
Oh, we gotta bring them a pineapple.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
never
it was
did the
just kind of.
pineapple.
We haven't done that.
What they end up not being very popular after the first one. I don't know if it's because it's hard and they're like, what the heck is this thing?
I want to get them to
I don't
throw it
know.
back at me.
Oh, yeah, but now one night that the kids were chopping up a watermelon on the porch, and eating it and throwing off the rinds, and then one they cut it. How you finally you got 3 watermelons, you're about done after.
Yeah.
They're all, so now it's just like throw them off the porch. They threw one. This is at dark. They threw it off the porch to hear it splat. It never splatted.
He was just down there. He's like, thank you.
Like they're all holed out. All the red was gone. And that was kind of funny. I mean, anything you could argue with, it hit a tree, fell, maybe a squirrel dug it out, Oh, one time I put on the altar, which was over here. And then we're talking, I don't know how far away the stage is, because we had like the tree house, the Airbnb, the apartment, and then there's a big pond and a field. And then there's over on the other side of the amphitheater, I put a jar of peanut butter. Now I had opened it and tore the seal off, but I put the lid back on, put it on the altar, and it was it was gone the next day. And everybody was like, "Oh, you raccoons got that," They rolled. I looked everywhere.
You're
I'm
gonna
looking,
walk
maybe
away with
rolled
it?
off the rock, like whatever. It was months. I mean, months later, I go over to the stage. In the middle of the stage, there is a jar. That jar, clean with the lid on, peanut butter right in the middle of the stage. Like, hey,
Need a refill.
what's going on with that butter?
We found on one of my first trips down to do documentation, it was like halfway through. I've been trying to find the footage for it because I know I had it on footage. We were walking around the edge. We found a tube of toothpaste.
Oh yeah.
Seal was still on, but there was a bite mark taken out, clear teeth marks, and the thing was clean, like there was nothing left in it. It was just like,
yeah, it was empty.
Someone took a bite out of it, and then it was just like, we were
That's
walking around
funny.
like, what's this toothpaste thing doing here? It was behind some of the cabins. I was like, oh, it looked like maybe some of the kids had left it.
Right.
And I picked
Yeah,
it up, had this perfect, like, as if someone just went right through it. And we're like,
That's
oh.
a golden moment. That's a golden moment.
Yeah. What was that?
You're just exchanging stuff like Boo Radley from To
Yeah.
Kill a Mockingbird.
Yes.
It's like, finding weird stuff out in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've had, there was a time, I wasn't there for this one. I don't know. Randy, who were you out with? You left behind the machete. The machete got lost.
Oh,
Oh,
God,
wow.
yeah. It fell off. We had a machete on us, and my friend Trevor, he had it on him. It fell off of his, fell out of the sheath, actually. One of those like cheap machetes.
Yeah.
But it fell out of the sheath, and he was unaware of it. And months go by, and we're actually up there wood knocking, and we wood knock, and it responds with a tang, 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 tang. And you can tell it was the freaking machete.
I love it.
It's like, is that the machete? He's got the Squatch. The Squatch.
We're like, oh God, we've armed them.
Yeah, really. I want to leave him a bowl. I want to leave him a singing bowl. Like, I want to leave.
Yeah.
I don't know what would happen. Now that y'all are talking about machete, the metal and noise. Yeah, like, I wonder what that would bring if they would be like, oh, a bowl to eat in. Like, what? I don't know.
I've thought about like leaving out bells, like handbells.
Yeah, I have thought about the bells too.
It's just to see if they hear like.
Mhm. That's a
Man,
good
that is
idea.
that is setting yourself up for some creepy ass, just middle of the night and like, oh
That's what's
God.
crazy. That's what's crazy about this is it's like
It'd be so
the middle
scary.
of the night seems to be the best time
Yeah, I know.
to be out there. People are like, oh, so you go in the middle of the night? I'm like, yeah. I mean, I've gotten some stuff in the daytime, but not.
We've gotten the
It's
best
just like
stuff
the
at
night.
night.
Yeah, the
That's
best
when they-
stuff's at night.
I feel like
Singing bows in the middle of the night would probably be the most terrifying.
Wow.
Hearing it from afar. Now that's what my neighbor said. Over up on the other side of the bluff. I get this message on Facebook, and I'm like, I don't know this person, and they're like, please tell me that you are ringing some kind of bell at 2 a.m. I'm like, yeah, that's me.
Like, am I
He was
hearing
like,
a UFO?
yeah.
Thought the apocalypse was happening.
Yeah, what is going on over there? And sounds, like, it's proven it creates portals, and so there we go into all that. Like, what
Oh,
kind
we
of
got to
shit
get you up on Cardwell Mountain some point, man.
Yeah.
we do? Yes, we do.
There's a
Yes, we
cool
do.
ass site up there.
Yeah, there is a cool ass site up there. It's haunted my dreams for many years.
We need to get you up there.
I've never walked there, okay, but I told when you guys went up, and Ben took it was like, he goes, oh my God, Tree, it's everything you described from your dream. I'm like, yeah, down to the yellow flowers across the bed.
We
Yeah.
can do that soon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I got a new hip now. I can climb anywhere. I'm ready.
Yeah, I gotta use it. Gotta use it now.
I'm gonna use it. Hey, that was my like I was not one for surgery. I got ran over when I was 12, so it's just been, off and on. But the one thing that motivated me, I mean, I've been a dancer and I was like, okay, I won't dance so much. But then it's like, wait a minute, I can't go out to the woods with Bigfoot. Oh, yeah, I'm getting a new hip.
Yeah.
I'm getting a new hip. I got stuff to do, So that was my
Priorities.
motivation. Yes, priorities. Absolutely. My rabbit hole. But it's a beautiful one. And then you see all the things that are happening all over, people's testimonies and their stories.
Mhm.
And we realize this is so much bigger than us. It is a true, I mean, it's a gift. Like now that we find out, and I say find out, but I mean with the DNA test, okay? Like,
Yeah.
that this is something, it's real. It's a tangible thing. No matter if
Yeah.
they're supernatural, slipping out of portals or whatever they're doing. This guy I talked to in the desert, he said that some have that ability and some don't. There's different, like levels of them because, like, just like us, watered down and birthed and
Yeah.
meshed with others, but that ancient bloodline of them, the ones that they are the ones who have that are actually activated that type of ability. Not that the others can't, but they're the ones that use it. And so when I look at Atticus and the clan there, I feel like we're talking about, older than us. Like we're talking, they were here way before us.
Yeah.
The ancient civilization, pre-Diluvian.
Yeah. I mean, the Cherokee talk about them. I mean, a lot of. They're throughout history, in like any verbal history and stuff like that of any of the natives in our country. They
Even the
talk about.
even the pictographs of the big man with the.
Yeah,
You
hairy
I
man.
mean, now that you kind of go, we didn't know what that was until you see a Sasquatch. You're like, okay, that's what that
Yeah.
artwork has to be.
Yeah.
So.
The Choctaw actually had legends specifically of the Cumberland Plateau,
Yeah.
and talked about that the
Mhm.
reason that that they only hunted there and that they never settled it was because of all of the little people and the hairy giants.
Yeah, the little people. That's another
Yeah.
story, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was about halfway through my Bigfoot journey is when I got introduced to the Yundwit Sunni, and that became everyone learning that. I was like, okay, I can't. I don't even want to deal with these now. Like,
Okay, can I like have more time in the day so that I can research all this?
yeah, and that's
But you know
what.
what? Y'all may know more about this. Okay, okay. I can't remember the name of it's just left me. I should have wrote it down, but the pygmy people.
Homo florensis.
Florenza, yes, Homo Florenza. Okay, so Hawaii has
Yeah, they have their own little
found,
people. Yeah.
Yep.
yes, Middle Tennessee. What the hell? And
Yeah.
Indonesia.
Yep.
Is there anybody else that's reporting this, or we just? I mean,
Colorado has its own little people.
okay.
Oh, really?
Massachusetts actually has its own little people. They're called the Pukwudgies.
Yeah, we have the
There.
Pukwudgies.
Okay.
But yeah, they're all over the place. Like it's kind of
Okay.
like hairy men and Bigfoot. Like every
Yes.
every Native American nation has their own version of it.
Yeah. Well, see, and I was told one of my clients out in Bone Cave years ago. She had breast cancer, and I would go to see her weekly. And she came down from Wisconsin. She bought a house down here because she felt called. And then she had a little bowl on her table when you walked in, and there was like bells, little coins, old coins, marbles, rocks. And I was like, oh, what a cute little treasure trove. She said, those are from the little people. They leave them on the trail behind me, which is out, area around here. And I'm like, okay. At a time. And then she gave me a flute and she was like, that they come to the flute. They come to the song. And then I was like, okay, and that's another little tidbit of learning about this. I don't remember when I started researching the Spanish explorers as they came up through the Mississippi, up through Tennessee, and how they talked about all the beings and their powers. They were levitating. They were it was like a magical place of, all sizes and all kinds.
I think that is when a lot of the disappearance of the little people happened was because of the Spanish Inquisition coming through here.
Yes.
Disease.
Yes.
Yep. And the little people graveyards, when they talk about that they found them in the 1800s.
Yes.
And they were already hundreds of years old, that would put them right around the time the conquistadors were
yes, you're right. Because there was like I don't even know. It was like over 100,000 bodies. I mean, like pygmy graves
Yeah.
in White County, Warren County line,
That's a lot.
which is a lot. And I do believe there was a giant or a couple of giants in the same graveyard, maybe.
Yep.
Yes,
in White
that's
County,
correct. So that's just fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Well, Trey, I want to thank you for coming on tonight with us and sharing your
Absolutely.
experiences. And
Absolutely.
yeah, that was a great conversation. And
Thank you so much. I enjoy. This is my first public share. I don't know what kind of platform we're on, but I trust Randy, so I'm here.
yeah,
We'll be on YouTube.
yeah, we're just on YouTube.
Oh, cool. Well, just to close out, I want everybody out there to know that, like, my experience, I feel very blessed.
Mhm.
I'm very grateful for their presence in my life. However that ends up, whatever it is, and anything that I feel, like you say, conservationist and protection, I feel like that's one reason that this happened to me, because of the energy that I carry, and that whatever I can do I don't even know, to assist this, because it's not right. Like, our ancestors were pushed away. We should never do that to and these are superior to us
Yeah.
in
No, I
so many
agree.
ways. So I'm honored and I'm blessed. And thank you guys so much for sharing my story. And my children's book will be out, probably within this next year.
Oh,
And
amazing.
I'm hoping to, like, kind of let little kids just have imagination with it. And we're going to have fun like that. So,
That's awesome.
but anyway, thank you so much. And you
Thank
guys
you.
have a great night.
You as
Yeah,
well,
thank
Trey.
you. Always
Thank
love
you.
talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Trey.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that was great.
Talk to you guys later. Don't forget me on the next outing.
No, we
Oh,
won't.
I won't.
No, we
All
won't.
right, great. Awesome. Okay, bye-bye, guys. Thank
Bye.
you.
So, yeah.
She's amazing. So that was Trey.
That was great.
Tree, everyone. Is she coming to the convention this year? Is she going to be?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes,
So
we'll be there.
she'll be one of our vendors again this year at the convention. Lovely, lovely woman. We definitely need to do something with her and the sound bowls. We need to.
But that's at the camp out.
Yeah, definitely. I think that
Yep.
would be great. But to close out this episode, the Wild Man Cryptid Convention, in McMinnville, Tennessee, August 16th this year, guys. Tickets are up on Eventbrite, so please come out. And if you want to come share and to meet some of our stories from our guests and meet them and enjoy the vendor hall and just come down and enjoy the beauty that is Middle Tennessee, if anything. Coming down to see the area is an experience of its own. But that's all for tonight. You guys got any closing statements? Any things you want to wrap up with?
I'm good.
No, you good?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you
fucking-
take care of all that for us.
Oh, that's awesome. No,
Like I said,
Tree-
I'll mute most of the time because of Indy just screaming. So I just nod.
I always wait when you do come in. You come in with some good questions. So I mean, I will say that. But yeah, that's it for tonight, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a good night.